here today to talk about why that promise must be kept and why it is such a tragedy that it hasn't been kept thus far, is a man who's dedicated himself to the cause of freedom in his position in Congress and his position as chairman of the House International Relations Committee. It's now my honor to introduce to you the distinguished director of the Center of Congress at the Indiana University, Lee Hamilton. Thanks, Lee. I don't know, I didn't do you justice.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. Patrick, I appreciate the opportunity to see you again, and I appreciate your very kind words. I want to say, first of all, just an expression of condolence and sympathy. In the few short minutes that I have been in this building, I've had the opportunity to talk to 3 people among you who have not yet heard about whether their loved ones and relatives escaped injury yesterday or this morning. And I could not help but think, as I was sitting here, of the anguish that many of you must be going through now. Patrick, your words were right on the mark, and my heart goes out to all of you, but especially those of you who have friends and relatives at Camp Liberty. The second thing I want to do, quite a contrast from the first point really, is to congratulate you on the long overdue achievement in the delisting from the terrorist list by Secretary Clinton. I spend a lot of my time now thinking about representative democracy, and I just want to say to you that your dignity, the manner in which you presented the facts, and above all your perseverance over a period of many months, even years, as you advocated and fought for that delisting, has been a marvelous example to me of our representative democracy. I know very well that you and I became impatient and had reason to wonder why our government took so long to do that. I certainly did. I'm sure you did as well. But the important thing is that you stayed with it and you got the job done, and I congratulate you for that. Now, of course, your work is not done, is it? Even bigger tasks lie ahead of you. You want to promote and advocate and advance Iranian rights across the globe and in that country. Much of what you do now will be built upon the base that you have learned from your experience with the delisting. And all of us on this platform applaud the goals that you have of a democratic, secular, non-nuclear Iran. If we can achieve that, the prospects for a Persian Spring, as you put it in your literature for this afternoon's meeting, will be greatly enhanced, and the world will be a brighter, more peaceful, and more serene place. As I am sure you are aware, a lot of the people on this stage gave you a lot of help, and I join you in thanking them for their leadership over a period of many months to get the delisting. Now let me just say a quick word or two about Iran and then about our policy, and I'll try to abide by my limits. Today Iran is in deep trouble. rapidly deteriorating, an economy in a mess, political infighting very much in display this week, and a crisis of confidence. The supreme leader and his control of Iran is a catastrophic development for the democratic aspirations of the Iranian people. Iran's strategic influence wanes in the region, but even so, they seek to destabilize the Middle East by smuggling anti-aircraft weapons to their military allies. Their foreign policy is complex, erratic, opportunistic, and dangerous. The world views with trepidation the prospect that Iran may acquire a nuclear weapon. Its sole ally in the Arab world is Syria, the regime whose very existence is now in doubt, and its behavior is far outside the parameters of law, as it seeks to exacerbate or to accelerate the process of uranium enrichment in defiance of the UN resolutions. Policy towards Iran is a complex and a confounding task, and 2013 could be defined, might very well be defined in a fundamental way by what happens in Iran. It is the key foreign policy issue of the moment, and it has and should have immediate priority among our policymakers. It remains the biggest threat to the global security today. You are well aware of the policy options. I will not go into them. And in this past week, we've seen a veritable circus coming out of Tehran. The foreign minister said it's set for talks aimed at curbing the nuclear program. Within a matter of hours after Vice President Biden's offer to hold one-on-one talks, the Iranian leader rejected such bilateral talks, saying that talks with the United States would not solve the problem. Iran is still scheduled to meet later on this month with the 5 permanent members plus Germany, the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council. We shall see what develops, but there's not much reason for optimism as of this afternoon. All financial transactions have been cut off. Europe is boycotting Iranian crude oil. The question is not so much the sanctions, in my judgment, as the enforcement of the sanctions. They've surely raised the cost and slowed the progress of Iran's nuclear program. They've limited Iran's ability to modernize its armed forces. However, that said, these sanctions have not yet prompted Iran to accede, as you know, to the UN Security Council demands. The enforcement of the sanctions needs to be stepped up, especially in the Gulf and in Asia. The military option must be preserved in order for our ability to destroy Iran's major enrichment facilities and damage their military capabilities. Our diplomacy must demonstrate that we have explored all reasonable policies before we turn to the military option. And we have to now get right the mix of military, economic, political, and diplomatic pressure. To conclude, let me just say that our policies must include a support, and this is where you come in, of a unified, capable, organized, democratic opposition to the Iranian regime. Naval exercises in the Persian Gulf, improved regional security cooperation, especially in the Gulf, new anti-missile systems to protect our friends, clear communication to Iran about the red lines of U.S. policy, the option, of course, to use military force, a tight ban on weapons sales, clamping down on Iranian oil revenues, full and tough enforcement of the sanctions, and, of course, covert actions, and working with our allies in the region. I picked up again your 10-point program. And let me just say that I commend you for it, and I applaud it. The ballot box, freedom of speech, freedom for the media, separation of church and state, gender equality, support for the rule of law, human rights, the free market system, peaceful coexistence, and, of course, a free Iran without nuclear weapons. That is a platform that I can endorse with great enthusiasm. In all that we do, we must put the people of Iran, their hopes and their aspirations at the center of our policy and push for democratic change in Iran. And one day, we will look forward to that day, to holding a meeting similar to this in a free Tehran and a free Iran. Thank you very much. I'm going to run on, Travis.